Welcome to the Madness and Grace podcast. We have a special episode for you today. We're going to be talking about mental health coaching, and I have with me two mental health coaches that are active in the community. One who is presently active at a faith community in the area, and another who is actually now an employee here at the Hope and Healing Center. So is working in a nonprofit arena, but has been and is an active mental health coach at her own church. So I have with me Kathy Smith, who is at Greater Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church, really one of the first churches that we trained early on. And so we're going to talk about all the great things that are going on there. And Tanya Melendez, who is now our community education manager, and she is involved in actually pushing the training out into the community. But she's also been an active mental health coach at the Met Church before she came to be with us here at the Hope and Healing Center. And one of the reasons that I have both of them here today is that in studies that we've done with mental health coaches that have received training, those are the two most common places that they are providing their care are in faith communities within the community or at faith-based nonprofits. So I wanted to get both of those perspectives. For those of you who don't really know what a mental health coach is, a mental health coach is a layman who's been trained to work with individuals who are struggling with mental health problems. It's really more than a lay counselor because they've been trained to be able to provide support and assistance to people who have more serious mental health problems than you might normally find in a lay counseling ministry. But what's interesting is that people who approach clergy for assistance related to mental health problems have the same level of mental health illness that you would find from people who go to psychiatrists. So I think it's a really oft overlooked area within ministry and really certainly is an increasing time. So I thought what I'd do is I would introduce our guests and let them just tell us a little bit about themselves. So maybe start with you, Kathy. I know you are at Greater Jerusalem Missionary Baptist, but just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do there in relationship to the mental health ministry.
Okay, how y'all doing? My name is Kathy Smith, and I'm part of the Greater Jerusalem Missionary Church under the pastor and leader, Joe Fred Russell. Me and Pastor went through the training together, which was very exciting. And we took the information and we took it back to the community. We took it back to the churches. We reached out to the community. We know that there was a need because sometimes we would have people come in the congregation that people really didn't understand exactly what was going on with them, but then once we went through the training, we was able to identify some of those issues or what was going on, and basically how to de-escalate the situation. Because one thing that I did observe is that when people come through and they have a mental challenge, sometimes we don't understand and we go to people, but we go to them in the wrong way. And some things that we can say or do is like a trigger for people. But until you being taught the triggers, the do's, the don'ts, then you know how to handle the situation. So it was very helpful. There's been time where a couple of peoples I have talked to. We went to the radio station. We put it on the radio station. We got a lot of feedback. We got a lot of people that came and joined the class. The class is offered once a week on Tuesdays from 6 and 7:15. And we had peoples came from Clear Lake. We had churches reaching out to our church from Clear Lake, wanted to be trained or wanted to just come in one of the sessions and sit in just to see exactly what it was and was it something that they wanted to bring to their churches. So it's a good tool to have in the church, Mr. Matt, because mental illness been around for a long time, but if you don't understand it and you're not equipped to handle it, you can make it worse than what it really is,
Well,
you
that's a
know?
good point. It's a very
Yeah,
good point.
yeah.
What about you, Tanya? What was it like for you as a mental health coach?
So my journey was a little different. I graduated with my master's in nonprofit management in the middle of the pandemic. So I graduated August 2020. And I think a part of me is a glutton for punishment, and I didn't have anything really to do. So I was reaching out to the church and just seeing how I could get more connected, more involved. I was already serving as a small group leader for a women's group. And one of the pastors reached out to me and said, I didn't know you have a master's in nonprofit management. And so he talked to me about wanting to further our cares ministry and bring in this mental health coaching aspect to it. So he provided me with a link to check out, and down I went. I took the training, and I have a bachelor's in psychology, and I was like, okay, this is kind of, I know where we're going with some of this. So it was great. Um, and the church was really, we were in the baby, infancy stage of that. So I was involved in some of the intro meetings that were going on. Like, this is what we're thinking. This is where we want to go. What is your feedback? What's your opinion? And so those that were interested, they kind of came through with that. Obviously, the church leadership had already set some of the framework in place. So we were just going to slide into a slot that was already designated for us. And God does the rest. He just really provides the people. He,
Mhm.
brings in the connections. So as everything just kind of evolved, um, everything just kind of really fell into place. I do have to say that I feel like my church was very instrumental in and very intentional in how they presented it to the church.
Mhm.
And they talked mental health from, the pulpit, and they had sermons on it. Pastors were like, "Hey, I see a therapist or a counselor," just made it very relational. Like, I'm no different from you. And then there was a time where we kind of have prayer throughout. They had this a couple weeks where we did prayer. And as we walked around different stations, you would pray for different ministries. And one of them, they had all of the mental health coaches listed out, and it was outward focus facing the street. And it was just like, this station is here because we want to serve our community.
Mhm.
So please keep us covered in prayer while we focus on serving the community.
Right.
So that's just been my experience with it.
All right. Yeah, and I would say that I know that both of these women are involved in churches that are very community oriented, and the mental health ministries at those churches are very focused outward towards the community. So, going back over to you, Kathy, one of the things I think people might find interesting is if you could kind of tell us a little bit about Greater Jerusalem. What's the church like? What's the community like that you serve? And then what are the kind of issues that are people are bringing to you as a mental health coach that they're asking you to help them with?
Okay. Well, Greater Jerusalem is a church that's on the northeast side of Houston. We just celebrated our 50th year anniversary. So the church always main goal is the community. And so for as the community, the church, we're there to serve the whole man, the whole man, the whole woman, whoever it is, we're there to serve them, not only through God's word, but we're there to help them with we have ministry feeding the hungry every third Saturday of the month. So the church is very involved in the community, and I've been at Greater Jerusalem for 39 years. So a lot of my teaching that I has gotten under Pastor Russell and other pastors is that you can take that teaching and you can apply it to any situation that you deal with because it's God's word. And so you can take from Genesis to Revelation, whatever you're dealing with, God already gave us an answer for every situation that we'll be dealing with in life. And when you think about the community, you look at the community because we serve a community that doesn't have a lot of resources. Uh, they're not well educated on a lot of things because a lot of people thought, oh, well, you know what? Coming and just talking to somebody, they thought, okay, that mean I'm crazy. That don't mean you're crazy because you're coming to see a mental health coach. But when we don't be taught, we don't know any better. So a lot of things that people would go through, they wouldn't talk to nobody about it because they don't want that label of being I'm crazy. But now that people have understood what mental health challenges is, I think is opening up a little bit more because I look at the situations that we see on TV. I see things that the law enforcement has to deal with sometime. Like 3 weeks ago, there was a grandmother that was in a crisis. She had nowhere to turn, nowhere to go. Y'all probably seen it on the news. She was ended up on 45
Mhm.
with a chair in the middle of the freeway because she just couldn't handle life anymore.
Right.
There was no way out. What do I do when I'm overwhelmed? What do I do when I don't feel like nobody's there for me, nobody's hearing me? How do I get the attention of people to understand I'm hurting?
Mhm.
But where do I go? And when people are hurting and going through their challenges, we got to be careful not to judge, because some people think when people going through crisis, something is wrong or they did something. Sometimes you don't necessarily have to do anything. Sometimes it's called life. And when you don't understand life, life give us some challenges that we don't ask for, but it's how we deal with those challenges. So Greater Jerusalem, one thing I love about Greater Jerusalem, we hold your hand just like a baby. We're gonna hold your hand. We're gonna take care of you. We're gonna nourish you. We're gonna walk this journey with you. You're not by yourself. And
Right.
when you get to that point, setting goals, don't set your goals too high that you can't reach. Coming in, talking to somebody every week, it makes a difference. And the thing that I got out of Mr. Matt, uh, I am a child care provider. I have my own business, so I deal with a lot of families. I come in contact with a lot of different people. I see a lot of issues. I see a lot of things. I deal with people with divorce. I deal with people with grief. I deal with people within so many areas. But with the training I got from you guys, I'm able to help my family, not only if I'm not at the church, but anywhere. A
Right.
grocery store, at my job, at the church, at a ball game. I was even on a cruise and a lady was going through a divorce. She had no one to talk to.
Mhm.
Thank God I was there to give her a different insight on life.
Right.
Because when you don't have nobody in there, people figure the only way out of life is to kill myself.
Right. No, I
For me,
like what you said. I like the couple of things you said. Knowing that Greater Jerusalem has a very holistic approach to
yeah,
people. So, ministry is not just teaching the word, but it's helping feed people, it's helping shelter people, helping take care of the babies. I mean, it's much broader. So, it's a lot easier in an environment like that to plug something else in and say, well, this is just part of that holistic approach. Did you find that? That as you set up that mental health ministry and you became a mental health coach there, did you find that you also were given opportunities to kind of educate the congregation on what mental health issues were, and that made them more open to talking about their problems?
yes, sir, Mr. Matt. That's most definitely right. Because, like I say, people think when you got a mental illness, you crazy. You're not crazy. That's what we've been taught. So we have to go in and program people to what mental illness really is, because it's not labeled like that. And when you understand it, just like when I would go and I would teach at the class, it would help me sometimes, because some days I had a rough day, but I'm going in and I'm helping other families. But in turns, I got help too, because
Right.
then I'm able to share my day with somebody. So it goes both ways. So you're being blessed twice. That's how I look at
Absolutely.
it. And then
Yeah, I think that yeah. It's
yeah,
just like any other ministry. The
that's
person ministering gets just as much ministry as the person getting the ministry.
that's
So that's what it is to be part of the family of God. So no, that's a great point.
yeah.
So Tanya, what about the Met Church? Give us a little idea of what that church is like and the community that you serve, and then the types of issues that people might bring to you as a mental health coach.
So we're over on the northwest side of Houston, and the Met Church has quite a legacy. It's been there for several years. I forget how many years we just celebrated recently, but I've been a part of the Met Church probably about 8 to 9 years now. And so when I first joined, they were doing a visible campaign. So kind of taking the church out of the, you know, covered windows and just kind of, we're a church on the street corner. We're a church, but we're not really visible to the community and the services that we have. And so there's been a lot of intentional effort to kind of trim back some bushes so that you can see the church. You can know that we're there. We took a building that we had and made it a community center. And now there's programs focused on low income families for
Mhm.
different sports throughout the year. We have we do year-round regen program, which is basically like a 12-step program, Bible-based, Christian, and it does all topics. It's not just alcohol or addiction or anything. It's all topics. And so we have that. We have grief share. So there's a lot of different programs that they already had in place. And so they just kind of felt we're missing, especially with the pandemic, they were like, there's this mental health aspect that we're missing. And so that was brought in as a part of that. You're going to see everything from, again, grief, depression, anxiety, um, divorce, suicide, addiction, just all kinds of mental health topics that you can imagine. They're there within the church, within, again, some of our leadership have shared what they personally struggle with and they're journeying through it. And then when I came to work, and I was transitioning basically from a for-profit to a nonprofit. I didn't even realize to think to add my mental health coaching on my resume because I'm like, oh, it's just a certification, it's not really for work. But again, after the pandemic and how a lot of HR shifted to actually incorporate mental health into their employees and into the workplace, and that really got a lot of attention. And then I was blessed to come here to, you know, Gateway to Hope and, which is part of HHCI, the Hope and Healing Center, and the free clinic that we have here. So that was just a blessing. But in that interim, I had to make the decision that there was a life transition for myself going on. So that was a big step for me. So I went to my church and said, I need to take a break because I'm going through a transition myself. And so I want to make sure that I'm caring for myself properly and for my family. And then that way I can give, the best of me when I'm ready to come back. And the one thing I can say is that, our leadership has been very understanding. They're like, absolutely, take all the time you need. If there's anything that we can do to help you in the process, please come to us. And so I've been very blessed in that aspect. And, that I have the ability to still communicate and work in a field that I love.
Right. Great. Well, thank you. Yeah, at the Hope and Healing Center, Tanya is a mental health coach, as well as all of the operators that work on our support line in the evenings. We offer a support line called the Hope Line, 5 to 8 p.m. every evening, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, answered in English and Spanish. And those are all mental health coaches that have gone through the same training. So there are opportunities out there for mental health coaches to actually be employed. And as you said, Tanya, the addition of that just for your resume does really increase your marketability just because it is such a part of the conversation just going on in society about mental health. So that's really helpful for people to understand that. I also would say that in a large survey that we did a few years ago of about 1,000 mental health coaches nationwide, we found that about 80% of the mental health coaches were in a voluntary position, and about 20% were actually receiving some pay for what they did. So they may have been staff at a nonprofit, or they may have been staff at a church. So again, there is a subset of people who actually receive payment, but the most are volunteers. So I'll stay with you, Tanya, on this next question, and then we'll go to Kathy. So thinking about all the things that you've done as a mental health coach, and even here at the Hope and Healing Center in your new position, what would you say is your most rewarding moment as a mental health coach? And then maybe also you could give us a challenge, maybe something you worked through, or a difficult client, or maybe something that you're still working through.
I think I would consider myself more of a connector. While I have, you know, a, my educational background and everything to understand and to kind of walk people through a lot of stuff, and I've had my own life experiences in that, I like to connect people. I like to just listen. And then I'm like, oh, I think this would be a great resource for you, or this is a great program that we have. So a lot of people at church kind of like, we need to connect you with Tanya because Tanya knows all the programs going on. I'm kind of like that walking referral network. I'm like, oh, we can do this. And I love following up with people. And of course, I never just tell someone go do this and then never see them again. um, let me exchange numbers with you. Let me get your information. I'm gonna plug you in and connect you. I like to connect them with someone they can actually talk to. And I'll just say, hey, I was talking to this individual. They needed your services. And I'll be like, oh, I talked to so and so. And I give them a name that they can refer to. and I connect them, and then I follow up with them. And so I like to hear their journey, and I'm always going, "What's going on? You know, did you make a breakthrough with that situation?" Like, I love those things, and I'm the type of person, and they're like, "You're so bubbly," and I was like, "That gives me so much joy, just knowing what God is doing and the breakthrough that He's providing for people." And then I'm also like, "Hey, can we share that testimony?" Because that's the best part. I mean, I feel, when I read that scripture where it's like, we defeat the enemy by the word of our testimony, I'm like, well, then let's talk. Let me tell you, let me share, let me connect you with someone who can help you get that breakthrough you need. And so that's my biggest accomplishment, a rewarding part of it. On the flip side, my biggest struggle is when you have that person who just wants to latch on to you and wants to just tell you and say, I don't want to say they want to stay in that position, but they have a hard time taking that first step to accepting the help. And so it's that struggle. It's that, okay, God, give me the patience, give me the words, give me what needs to be said so that they can take that step.
Kinda helping them move forward,
Yeah.
starting to take that step, yeah.
You just want to drag them. You're just like, come on, I'm going to introduce you and you're going to do great.
I think that's a challenge that even professional providers have. It's difficult to get someone to take that first step. Even when they say they need help, a lot of times it's hard.
Yes.
What about you, Kathy? What's been most rewarding for you and what's a challenge?
My most rewarding is that, probably like a couple of years ago, it was a young lady came and she joined our church. And she had no family here or anything else and stuff. She had been trying to look for work and things like that. And she was just struggling in an area. And she would come to the mental health class and she would talk to us and share. And we would use the curriculum, and everything else and stuff and pray with her and everything. And so I think like probably 4 days later, this young lady called me, and when she called me, she was going through a crisis. So when she called me about the crisis, she was at a park, not like 5 minutes from the church. So I went and I met her at the park. We talked and everything and stuff, and like I say, this thing called life, life could be life, put it like that. And when you don't know how to navigate through life, because life is about changing. Some people don't like to change. All change is not bad change. Some change is good change.
Mhm.
And so she was struggling and everything and stuff. And she was like, I just want to tell you, thanks for everything. But, I just want to give up right now. And she wanted to commit suicide while I was there. And I kept talking to her and praying with her and calling on the name of Jesus and everything else and stuff. And eventually the devil let her go. And so I asked her, what else could I do for her? I said, because I'm not leaving you. I'm gonna stay right here with you. So we're gonna stay in the park tonight. And so she had a family member that was way out of town and she didn't have any money, anything. So I immediately called Pastor Russell, let him know exactly what was going on with the young lady and everything else and stuff. And so we got her a ticket, a Greyhound ticket, and a family member was willing to let her come and stay. And I think it was just life. And when you somewhere in another state all by yourself and you don't know peoples and you're trying for a new beginning, but the new beginning never comes because it's this, it's that, and everything else and stuff. And a lot of times, like I tell her, I said, well, sometimes when you leave from Houston and you going where you're going, you got to stay with the right people. You got to stay connected to the right people. Some people you get connected with is not the right people because everybody is not trying to do the best for themselves or their situation. Some people is out there to get whatever they can get and gain from whatever they can gain from. But with that being said, took her to the Greyhound bus station, everything else and stuff, made sure she had some money in her pocket to buy something to eat, everything. We prayed again and I told her, when you get there, please, whatever you do before you do anything, call me. I don't care what time of night it was or morning to let me know that you made it to your family house safe. Her family did call me. The young man called me and say she did arrive and she made it, and everything else, and they was gonna take it from there. That right there was rewarding for me because God gave me that gift through the Hope and Healing Center.
Mm.
And then he not only gave me the gift, but he put me in a situation to use the gift. Because sometimes people just freeze up when situations happen. But I didn't freeze up. I stayed calm. I kept the situation where it needed to be. When I seen she was trying to go a little left, I stayed right there. I stayed right there. I didn't poke. I didn't go no further. I stayed right there, Mr. Matt. That is a moment I never, ever, ever forget. That was priceless for me.
That's
It
wonderful.
saved somebody that day. I really saved somebody with what you guys taught me. I was able to help somebody else. And the other one, like she said, the flip side of it is some people do get clingy to you. They don't want to deal with nobody else. They don't want to talk to
Right.
nobody else. Every little thing they calling you. Any little thing. Any little thing. And I just realized, some people we just gotta let them be there. Cause some people just like that. Some people feel like if they're not doing certain things, they're not needed. Some people we have needed people
Mhm.
in this world. We got some people, they just like that. They latch on, they just need to be connected to somebody.
Right.
And knowing that you need them. It could be something real simple. And eventually they gonna wing on out. But sometimes you just have to latch on, just like a baby. Sometimes we try to, okay, go ahead. You need to go ahead and start walking. But that
Right.
baby not gonna walk until that baby's ready. So sometimes even in these situations, they not gonna let go till they feel like they're comfortable
Right.
and they could do it on their own. So
Yeah, that's a
and
good
I look
point you
at
both
that
make. Sometimes they're just not ready when they come to you. They say they're ready, but they're just not ready yet. So you got to maintain that relationship. I like what you both said because I think a lot of times when people think about a mental health coach, they just think about maybe somebody who sits down with someone one on one and helps them work through a particular mental health related problem or leads a support group or something like that. And you both have talked about really being an advocate and a resource for people. I think, Tanya, what you said about, people come to you because Tanya knows where everything is
yeah.
type of thing. And Kathy, you said the same thing. I mean, that's hugely important because a lot of people don't realize that, in mental health, it's kind of a trial and error to find care. And if you have somebody that you trust that actually knows where to send you or who to suggest you go see, that can literally save years of suffering. And then the other thing is mental health coaches, they step into messy situations. And I do think that the training prepares you for that. It's always messy, and I think you make a good point, Kathy. You just got to kind of stay in there and hang on, and I think that's really what ministry is all about. I mean, we have to be willing to step into a messy situation, and what a mental health coach in your church and a mental health ministry in your church allows you to do is to minister to people that are in those messy situations rather than just give them a phone number and say, go find some help here, call this guy, maybe he can help you. We can help you right here at Greater Jerusalem or at the Med or wherever you may go. And I think that's really what we're called to do. And we may not always have the answers, but we're present, and we also obviously have the Word, and we always can pray. So, uh, another question I wanted to ask you both, and I'll start with you, Kathy, is one of the things that's kind of interesting about this conversation we're having here is we're talking about mental health issues and we're talking about faith at the same time, which a lot of times in our world, those just don't really go together. You might talk about mental health or you might talk about faith. They're kind of separate things, but we're talking about them as them they're together. Give me some thoughts on how you've seen being a mental health coach allows you to kind of meld those together, and really, what do you see as the church's role in mental health care?
For that part, Mr. Matt, I think if we just stay with the scriptures and stay with God, I think that whatever we face, that God is going to be there with us. God give us the strength, even in the toughest of time, even if it's not a mental health coach. And we all gonna face things in life. But when you think about the church and the mental health, I put together as faith, because faith you don't always see it,
Hmm.
and the Bible tells us we walk by faith, not by sight. So if we see some things, we would change some things. If we know some things, I wouldn't even get involved. But because faith tell me that I'm more than a conqueror, faith tell me that God said, "I'd never leave you nor forsake you." So any situation we go through is going to be challenging, but I got God on my side. And as long as I got God, I think that He put us in position to be a witness for Him, even in the toughest of times, even when people don't see their way. Sometimes we're the closest thing they see.
Mhm.
So we're like God. So when people see us, we want them to see God in us. So a lot of times we can't give up on people. Family members sometimes give up on people. The world write people's off because the world say strike three, you out. But I'm so grateful that God don't do us like that. And I always keep that at the forefront of my mind all the time. If God don't give up on me, I can't give up on nobody else. Even when I don't understand these tough challenges, even when I don't know what the outcome gonna be. And I tell a lot of people when we going into these situations, do we have all the answers? No. When we going through these challenges, are they gonna be good and bad? It's gonna get messy sometimes. Sometimes it might even get ugly sometimes, but it's how we handle the situations and how we handle people. And I think when we handle people's the way God want us to handle them, because God handle us very careful. He know what we're gonna do before we even do it. And a lot of times I tell people, quit stereotyping people.
Mhm.
Don't judge a book from the outside because we don't know what peoples are really going through or what peoples are facing or anything else. But I think if we keep God, we can win this thing with mental challenges, with mental health. I really believe in my heart because the scripture is real. And that's all we really have is the scripture, Mr. Matt. We don't have anything else. Because God gonna have to be the one change the individual. God can change me. If God healed back then, he can still heal today.
Well, that's a good
God
point.
keeps us every day in our right mind. So that's priceless right there.
No, that's a good point. Christ has to be the center of what we're doing. We have to see mental health. These mental health challenges are ministry for us. That's we're ministering to these people. We may be able to help them with their symptoms. We may be able to give them a referral. We may be able to do whatever from a mental health perspective, but we have to recognize that it's ministry first and foremost and that God is with us in it. And I think you make a good point about we might not have all the answers, but we're here. Here we are. So, Tanya, what about you? How's it been with the integration of faith into that? Do you find that people are open to those discussions or not open to those discussions? Do you have particular faith-oriented questions that you get asked a lot?
I think the thing I see the most is we all put on that facade, that face. Like, "Oh, we're good." You ask that question on Sunday morning, "How are you doing?" "I'm good." "Really?" And it's I love that discernment, that, little nudge going, pry a little deeper, "Are you okay?" Give that person, and again, this is discernment, this is if you have that relationship, give that person a hug and just whisper to them, say, "If you're not okay, you can talk to me." If you have that availability. Obviously, when you're in a coaching environment, you have your boundaries and your space that you have to respect. But I believe that so often we find that we feel like we can come to church when we have it all together. We can come to church and we have to fake it till we make it. And I'm like, no, come to church just as you are. Walk through those doors of that organization or wherever you're going. And if you need help, just be honest. I need help. I don't know what to do with this. What I tell those that I'm, working with, I might not have all the answers. I said, and if it scares you that I say I don't know, I'm gonna apologize right now, but that doesn't mean that we're gonna leave it there. That means I don't know, but let's work on finding a solution. Let's work on finding a connection. If I don't know, maybe somebody else knows. That's why I'm really big on, getting people to share. What have you been through? Because if someone comes to me later, I'll be like, you know what? I know someone who walked through that. Let me connect you with them. Again, there's that connection piece where I'm just like, there might be somebody who can get us to that place a little faster, like you were saying, avoiding a lot of the roadblocks and the barriers that we're going to come across. So if we share with each other what we've learned, then we can grow as the community, we can heal as a community, we can, help someone else, that's coming up as a mental health coach or that's beginning to launch your mental health ministry. I think as a society, sometimes we're more like, no, this is what we've been through and we're going to keep it secret and we're just going to keep building and we're going to be better than them. But if we're focused on helping the community, then we have to help each other launch our ministries. We have to help each other coach. We have to help each other walk through difficult challenges. And recognizing that you're not okay is okay. And not having the answers, it's okay. And I love that our training just says, it reminds us, we're not here to fix them. We're here to help. And if I get to a point where I can't be of help anymore, then I need to acknowledge that as a mental health coach, and I need to connect you with someone who can help you further, because I've now reached my limit and I'm doing you a disservice by lying to you and telling you that I can continue to help you.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you guys. A couple things just to close out. Today in the United States, we have an ever increasing amount of mental health problems. So, for instance, since 2000, the suicide rate in the United States has increased more than 40%. And so 1 out of every 4 individuals struggling with a mental health problem, that's both in the church and outside the church. But sadly, a majority of people with mental health problems never receive any treatment. And so what you're hearing today, what you're seeing today with these mental health coaches is this is how you change the system. We know that people are more likely to go to clergy before they go to a mental health care provider or a physician. And that goes for anyone in the general population, not just those that are believers, not just those that belong to a church. Anyone is more likely to go first to a clergy or before a mental health care provider or a physician. So the church is the opportunity. It's the opportunity to draw people in, to provide them therapeutic support, to connect them to a healing community, and as we've said here, to share the love of Christ with them so that they might be transformed for eternity. So this is a movement that we hope to take off across the country. We are trying to transform the mental health care system, and we're really, in some sense, doing it one church at a time. The other thing I would say to finish out is if you're sitting there and you're listening, you're thinking, oh, well, this can only happen at those big, rich churches out in the suburbs, that have 200 staff and all of that. I'm telling you, that's not true. Okay. And so the smallest church that we've ever trained and worked with, they worship 15 on a Sunday morning, and their pastor isn't even that's not his full-time job. He works at a railroad yard. And then the largest one we've ever trained, they worship thousands of people on Sunday morning, and they are that giant affluent church. It doesn't matter. Both have the same problems, and both need the same assistance. They don't provide it in exactly the same way, but mental health coaching is flexible enough to meet in any of those. But I think the most important thing, and I'll finish out with this, is that they both have the same God. And this is really an opportunity to serve people in a way that I think is very relevant and very 21st century, because this is our greatest problem right now is mental health issues. And mental health is the great mission field of the 21st century. So thank you guys for being with me. And we look forward to seeing you again on the Madness and Grace podcast.
Thanks for joining our conversation on this episode of the Madness and Grace podcast. If you found value in our discussion today, we'd love it if you'd subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode.
And if you enjoyed what you heard, please consider leaving us a rating and review. It helps others find these important conversations.
Sharing this podcast with friends and family members is also a wonderful way to extend hope to those who might be struggling with mental health concerns.
We'll be back next time with another candid conversation about madness and grace. See you then.